Welcome back to the Living Transplant Podcast. In September 2022, we launched Great Actions Leave a Mark, a national multi-year public awareness campaign about living organ donation and transplantation. It has images and videos of living kidney and liver donors and recipients from across Canada. In this episode, I was joined by Ian Goodall-George, who self-proclaimed himself as the poster child for boring, but I promise you, he is far from that. Ian is an anonymous, non-directed kidney donor, meaning he stepped forward to donate a kidney to a stranger. Please enjoy. Welcome back to the Living Transplant Podcast. Today I am joined by Ian, who is a living donor, and I'm very excited to have this conversation today. So thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you.
I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, you're not going to find a more normal person than me. I'm like the poster child for boring and unassuming. I try fly under the radar. I don't like people even noticing me when I'm in a room. So I'm married to an extremely patient woman who is the biggest reason why I have two wonderful children who are 17 and 20. I work for the province of Manitoba, and before doing that, I worked for a number of nonprofit community development organizations. And I even worked for Regional Health Authority once, but not for very long.
Cool.
And I've lived in Manitoba my entire life, and I'm a very proud Canadian.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you, Ian. Today we are talking about Living Transplant and the Great Actions campaign. So to jump right in, can you bring me along your journey as a living donor and how you got from thinking about living donation to actually becoming a donor?
Well, it is an extremely long journey, and it started long before Google Maps existed. So I did get lost along the way. My earliest recollection of organ donation was when I was watching TV with my dad, and a conversation I had with him after the show where he told me how important it was to always choose to help people. He was a nurse, and his whole life was about being there for others. So choosing to be a deceased donor or a living donor is just part of being there for others. So that thought was lost for many years until I was donating platelets at Canadian Blood Services, and I saw a brochure for living organ donation. The rest, they say, is history. I kind of was hooked. It just immediately brought me back to that conversation with my dad, and I was off to the races, recalling what he had said to me 30 plus years before that. And it took a while for that opportunity to come up, but once it did, I was so excited to be given the opportunity to make a difference. So, and I guess if I had somebody in my life suffering from kidney disease, I may have become a kidney donor sooner than I did, but I didn't, and that's a good thing. I mean, I think that's a strange thing to say, but you never want to be forced into a situation because of somebody suffering. So I've wanted to be a living liver donor since making the decision to be a kidney donor. And I recently had a very dear friend of mine who found himself needing a liver transplant. So part of that journey that I really was naive about suddenly became very real to me. And I guess now I understand another part of that journey that I was naive about before. So I've found a very deep level of respect for the people that need transplants and their families that I really didn't understand before. And I think that's what really made me excited to be part of the Great Actions campaign. So, but the journey I think everybody's journey's a little bit different, and mine had ups and downs. I certainly had a few false starts, but I have not regretted that journey at all. And obviously it started and ended in Manitoba.
So you talked a little bit about that conversation with your father and how years prior he discussed that with you about the importance of organ donation. How did that process go?
Um, well, I didn't really have anybody that I could donate to. And I think if I had, I would have made that decision sooner. So it was a non-directed donation. And I think it was one of those rare opportunities that we come across in life where we're given an opportunity to do something for somebody else that is truly just for that person. think that's what I thought when I made the donation, but since making the donation, I've realized that I've gotten as much out of making the donation as the person who received my kidney.
Wow. From a recipient, it's amazing to hear people step forward for all different reasons. And as I talk to more people in my role that I'm at, it's beautiful to hear everybody's reasons why they donate. And they're all so unique, and they all come from just the most beautiful places in people's hearts and in people's experiences. And it's fantastic to be able to hear more donors speak about that, because one of our biggest fears as recipients is the impact of this transplant on the donors, and how you guys will have to go through that risk to save our lives. So having the ability to have donors speak up and talk about the process, and like you just said, that you've gotten so much out of it, is really beneficial for people to hear, because it's such a big fear for us of what's going to happen to you when you go through this process.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think that's why the testing that donors go through is so long and arduous and
Mhm.
detailed, is because they want to make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk. So I had somebody ask me a while ago if I I made this donation in honor of my dad, and I had never thought about it until that point, and it just
Mm.
sort of struck me that maybe it was, maybe that was another reason that I was doing it. So again, every time you talk about it, it it brings out another memory or another reason or another.
Oh, that's amazing. So you decided to share your journey with us through the Great Actions campaign. Can you tell me a little bit about why you wanted to participate as a model for our Great Actions Leave a Mark campaign?
Well, I think I can say I was basically vibrating when you guys were talking about the opportunity, because it was just so exciting. And I think I wanted to participate for several reasons, and I don't think I can really nail it down to one. Primarily, I think I did it because one of my biggest frustrations since donating is that things haven't really changed much in my perception.
Mhm.
It took me 30 years to make that decision. So I felt like if by participating in the Great Actions campaign, maybe there's people out there like me that just need to either be asked to participate or asked to be donors or to be inspired to be donors. And the campaign just seemed like such an amazing opportunity to push that and to allow people to have that opportunity. No one person can make a change, but the campaign allowed so many people who were involved in that donor journey and recipient journey to come together to have one collective message about, let's have this conversation, let's start doing this, let's make a change. So that was my primary reason for being involved.
Mhm.
Um, and I also wanted people to realize that everybody's story is different. And I think that very clearly comes through in the campaign.
Mhm.
Some stories have a happy ending and some don't.
Mhm.
And as much as we try to avoid those bad endings, sometimes even those are positive. You hear stories about people that have donated that have given a family another 6 months, year with their loved one. And I don't think we can undervalue how important that is. Sometimes that allows for closure. It allows you to do the things that you didn't think you were going to able to do. So no, it was just an amazing once in a lifetime opportunity to get the message out there.
Amazing. Through all of this, of now being part of this community and going through the process yourself, do you have advice for people who are interested in becoming organ donors, but are just kind of in those beginning phases of learning more about it?
I think the number one thing is just talk to somebody.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe over the 30 years, I kept saying things to myself and I didn't realize it, but I never put actions to words and I never talked to anybody about it.
Mm.
So you talk to somebody. If you have a significant other in your life, share your interests with them. If you don't, talk to somebody or reach out to the transplant center that's closest to you. Make sure that you share with somebody, or make sure that you indicate you're interested in being a deceased donor, however you do in your province. Sign up,
Mhm.
because it's so important. I mean, if people don't know that your wishes are to be a deceased donor, then somebody's going to make a decision for you when you can't, and it might not be the decision that you wanted made. So that you can't overstress that. It's just so important.
Mhm.
Mm, But most of all, if you're thinking about living donation, just share it with everybody that you can so that we can start conversations. Things won't change until we have these difficult conversations, and you might very well say something to somebody when you're having coffee with them, and it sparks something in their brain, and then they think about it, and it's like a domino.
Mhm.
You have a conversation and that person has a conversation with somebody else, and before you know it, you have an entire community of people that are thinking about it, or at minimum will be there to support people who have made that decision to do it, because that's important as well too. We still see a
Mhm.
lot of people who don't support the people who are making the decision to be organ donors, and that's
Mhm.
sad.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
sad.
I touched on this a little bit, and so did you, but from a recipient perspective, do you have any advice for those people who have somebody who has come forward to say, I want to be your living donor, but they're really nervous about that loved one being their donor? Do you have any advice for
Oh
those
wow,
people?
what a good question. And I mean, I think it boils down to, if somebody is willing to be a living organ donor for somebody, it's because they want that person around.
Mhm.
So their reason for stepping forward is because they want more time with you, or they want to explore, or they want to be with you. They want to have more of their life with you. So if people are nervous about accepting that gift, that donation, I guess it's, you're doing as much for the person who's offering to give you the offering to be your donor than you're doing for them. I mean, you're giving them a once in a lifetime chance to 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 change somebody's life. With a kidney, it is a once in a lifetime. You can't give more than once, unfortunately, or I think
Right.
a lot of us would probably, but
Wow.
no, we really can't do that. But yeah, so that's how I would answer that person is, I mean, they're safe. They're going to be going through testing. Medical experts will make sure that it's okay for them to give it. And you're
Mhm.
giving that person a gift as well too by accepting it, because you're going to allow them to spend more time with you.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you. And I'm wondering if you have anything else you'd like to add about your journey or messages to people or anything about the Great Actions campaign.
I mean, I talk far too much. So there's one thing about the campaign I would mention. It it centers on it showing people scars, and
Mm.
I think that's why it is so successful. But there's also emotional, or those scars that we don't see, that are also part of the campaign. And I
Mm.
think because of the way they did the campaign, I think some of those emotional scars, or those the emotional part of the donation process, comes out so clearly. So they've been able to identify visually the impact of donation, but they've also had conversations that talk about the emotional part of it as well too. And I think
Mm.
that's why it's such an amazing campaign, and why I'm so privileged and so honored that I was allowed to be part of it. I guess something else I guess I would say is, it sort of alludes to what you said earlier about people's apprehension to letting people be donors. I guess asked all the time, why would anybody be a living organ donor?
Mhm.
Why would you offer yourself to go for this major surgery for really for what isn't really going to be a benefit to you? So
Mhm.
people seem to understand giving to somebody that you love, or somebody that you know, or somebody that you have a connection with. They don't seem to
Right.
struggle with that, but they definitely struggle with the non-paired or the anonymous part of it. I think, like I've said earlier, I think the feeling that you comes from knowing that you've made a difference in somebody's life is almost unimaginable and
Mm.
undescribable. It's a gift as great as a recipient, receives. And I can't say that enough. I have gotten more from being a donor than I think I even gave to the recipient.
Mm.
And that's really what it boils down to. I think it's also important that people acknowledge or remember that even if you can't be an organ donor, there's lots of other ways that you can help. There's opportunities to volunteer at transplant centers or hospitals. Look for opportunity to talk about organ donation. And most of all, don't just think that if you don't do it, somebody else will, because really sometimes you're the person that has to do it. And even the smallest act makes a difference. And sometimes the hardest thing is to step out of your comfort zone and offer to do something. And even if you're not successful, you've still made an effort to do it, and maybe it will open up a door to you doing something else.
It's amazing. Thank you, Ian. You have quite the journey that you've been on, and I can't speak for all recipients, but I do want to thank you and all of the donors for the incredible gift of life that you give back to us, because we truly have that complete renewal and rebirth because of other people. And it's such an incredible thing that there are people out there in the world like you who give us our lease on life back and give us our opportunity to continue to grow up and do those things that we've always wanted to do and achieve our dreams. So thank you for everything that you've done and for being part of the campaign too.
Well, thank you for the work that you guys do at UHN. I mean, I joke with people sometimes. It's not like they handed me a penknife and I took the kidney out myself. There was a lot of people that made it happen, and I probably had the easiest job. So it doesn't happen without an incredible team of people in all of the transplant centers in Canada. So we all need to pat ourselves on the back. We're all part of a team and we're all making it happen. And the work that you guys do is as valuable as the work that anybody else does. So give yourself a pat on the back and know that you're making a difference as well too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Ian's story from our Great Actions Leave a Mark campaign. For more information about Great Actions, visit www.greatactions.ca. If you have your own story you'd like to share, please reach out to us at livingorgandonation@uhn.ca. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like our podcast. Thanks for listening.